Hello guys, welcome to Sociocultural Screencast. The new topic we're going to be looking at is modern technological products and performance enhancing drugs in sport. So basically, key focus for tomorrow's lesson, we're going to look at the concept of performance enhancing drugs used in sport. It's going to be split into three objectives. First one, reasons that people take drugs or athletes take drugs. Secondly, the consequences behind them taking them. And finally, what are the solutions that we can use to prevent drug use. Then we'll do a separate standalone lesson on modern technological products, which are everything really. I mean, drugs are one example of a technological product that gives an advantage. We'll have a look at different examples and advantages and disadvantages of those. Okay, now first thing I'd like you to think about is kind of earlier in the year we talked about this concept of health. Now, before we start any of this, we've got to kind of consider what somebody who is healthy is, or what do they have. And from GCSE, some of you now will be thinking about that kind of definition we talked about at the start of the year. If you're healthy, you've got social, mental and physical and personal well-being. Okay, it's not merely the absence of disease, it is actually having those four categories of health. So if we have a quick look at this now, the four reasons people take drugs are directly linked to those categories. So we'll just go on to your next section here. You've got this bit here. So reasons for taking drugs. Social. So the key social reasons that people take drugs are things due to peer pressure. For example, you could look at Lance Armstrong was extremely kind of coercive towards his teammates in order for them to take drugs in order to be in his team. And then you go and look at coaches who might encourage, or certainly physiologists within teams. And also the big thing linked to social is society, or the society in sport that we live nowadays requires that you win. The win ethic is a huge link to social reasons, societal reasons behind people wanting to take drugs. Going on, physiological. Okay, the key reason why physiologically people take performance enhancing drugs is because it does exactly that. It will increase your performance. Okay, so for example, you might gain increased strength from taking drugs such as anabolic steroids. Mental. Now, mental is a huge thing. Okay, there's two ways people can use this. They might take them to calm nerves. So you've got narcotic, analgesics. Okay, there's one example where people use to calm nerves. You've got beta blockers, another example of drugs that you kind of can use to calm your nerves. And then also sometimes people want them to as an up. They want things to make them more aggressive. There's like a huge epidemic really of American football players taking amphetamines, which you might know as speed, okay, in order to give them edge and aggression within games. So people can use them in that way, mentally. And then also you have this personal aspect. One of the main reasons people take drugs is because of this personal aspect. So fame and fortune, winning, being the best. I mean, you look at kind of the Russian drug scandal at the moment, and anybody's interested, I have a couple of articles which I'll bring tomorrow. You're kind of looking at them, the fame and fortune they wanted from taking part, unbelievable. So much so that you've got people working in the Anti-Doping Association in Russia who are just swiping under the carpet for money. Okay, so people are so desperate for that fame and fortune that might push them to taking drugs. There's your reasons. Okay, moving on. Consequences of taking drugs. Okay, well the first one is it creates this concept of a negative role modelling. Okay, so Maria Sharapova, the most recent one I could think of, she has just been tested positive for a banned IOC drug. Okay, why is it that she's negative? What is it? I mean, we talked about this kind of concept of role modelling for motivational strategies. What do young people do in relation to Maria Sharapova? Okay, and then you can link it to the consequences. Role modelling, negative role modelling. Legal. Now, the key thing here is it's against the law of both sport and the land. Okay, so it's really important that you kind of get those kind of understanding of that. What do I mean by that? It's not illegal it's not against the law of the land to possess anabolic steroids. It's not illegal to assess growth hormone. It's not illegal to possess a lot of kind of performance enhancing drugs. However, what happens is there's a crossover. There's certain crossover drugs such as cocaine and amphetamines. Those two are used as a stimulant. And for example, cyclists, Tour de France, hugely popular in the kind of 80s and 90s. Amphetamines and cocaine were used to keep them up because obviously they would be riding for kind of 3 weeks and could be up to 12 hours a day. So they use those stimulants, which are actually recreational drugs that you would consider now, but also have a crossover into sport. Morality, okay, so the consequence, it goes against the values of sportsmanship. We talked about this concept of sportsmanship earlier in the year. I'll revisit that tomorrow at the start of the lesson. Physiological, and when you talk about physiological, you must make sure you split it into positive and negative. Okay, the physiological positive is an increase in muscle mass will lead to an increase in performance. If you took anabolic steroids, for example, if you're a rugby player. However, there are also physiological negatives, so you have to have physiological twice because the consequences can be good because they're going to, you're talking about a rugby player putting 3 stone on it in a year. Imagine the difference that would make to him in the collision or contact area. Then you're looking at the physiological negative. There are health issues, implications associated with taking drugs. So, for example, liver failure, heart problems, and high blood pressure. Okay, so going on from there, what solutions then do we have to prevent the taking of drugs? Well, first one, bans, lifetime bans. Unfortunately, there are not lifetime bans, but that's what there should be. And until there is a lifetime ban, there is never ever going to be a drug-free Olympics. There's never ever going to be a drug-free sport because until lifetime bans are brought in and are the norm, you will never have it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Testing, stricter in and out of season procedures. So now what they have is a 24/7 tracking system of athletes where they have to be available 1 hour a day. Okay. And that hour a day, they must be in a set location so that drug testers can randomly come to that place. If they're not, they have to phone them and tell them where they are. If they don't, they get in big trouble. Rio Ferdinand, example of someone who missed one of these kind of tests. You might have heard of that. It was quite a time ago. So going on from there, the other type of testing that has just been brought in is retrospective testing. Retrospective testing means that blood samples are kept for probably 12 to 20 years after each kind of Olympics or each drug test in a kind of World Anti-Doping Association rule this, and they have like a lab. In this lab they keep all samples. These samples are then retested when new drugs come onto the market, because what you've got to think, you've got these people in working for World Anti-Doping Association, but there are people who are working on the black market getting triple the money of World Anti-Doping Association officials because they're creating drugs that are undetectable at the moment. But eventually, while they catch up, then you start to get this concept of people, retrospective testing, and they lose their medals. Does that make up for the fact that, I think it was one of the Russian athletes that basically took drugs in London 2012. Now they found out that she was on the drugs, and there was a Great Britain athlete who came fourth and then now came third, but she did not get a bronze medal in London at the time because of that cheat. And that, can you ever really repair that damage? Yes, she gets a bronze medal, but does she get anyone clapping her? Did she get any of that feeling when those intrinsic values and fulfillment you get from winning something? No. Final two. One, educate. Okay, so you look at these things now. Basically, you need to have education programs in place, such as 100% Me. So you educate people on morality, sportsmanship. But 100% Me is a drug initiative from UK Sport, which basically we've talked about before. The final thing, and the most radical solution to prevent the taking of drugs, or to address the issue of taking drugs, is this concept of a counterculture. Okay, that basically means you basically counter the culture that is there, and you basically say, right, in order to counter it, what we're going to do is we're just going to do what everyone's doing. So if everyone's taking drugs, or if people are taking drugs, we have a drug Olympics. Okay, so rather than saying, oh, we've got to stop it, we've got to ban it, we've got to ban it, we've got to ban it, well, why don't we just have a drug Olympics where everyone takes drugs, and then do it that way? So this is the kind of radical, and this is not, counterculture is not linked to sport. It's not linked to drugs. It's linked to everything. Whenever there is something which is not supposed to be done in society, there is one radical school of thought that you have a counterculture, which means, okay, if people are doing it, let's let everyone do it, and then see what happens. Okay, imagine you'd have 12-foot absolute mutants running the 100 meters. It might be a bit of a spectacle, and obviously the health issues will probably stop that from ever happening. Okay, right, that's your screencast. 3 sections. Make sure you make good notes, please.